We are beyond thankful that you clicked on today's video, but it's Thanksgiving week in the NFL, and we are going to go through everything from game breakdowns, predictions, best bets, and more. It's a one-stop shop, so grab your favorite Thanksgiving side, enjoy it, and let's talk some ball. Amir, before we get into these Thanksgiving games, first off, this is one of the best Thanksgiving slates of games that I've seen maybe my entire life. But what's your favorite Thanksgiving side or dish in general, man? It could just be super niche, it could be super basic, like a turkey.
See, for me, it's 1A, 1B, mac and cheese and yams.
Okay.
I love it.
I'm there with you with the mac and cheese. I don't know. I'm not a big Thanksgiving guy. I love food, right? I'll sit there and eat all day, but as far as Thanksgiving, I don't know. It's one of those weird holidays where I'm there more so for the football than the
Yep.
actual food that goes along with it. Regardless, let me know your favorite dish in the comment section below. I did that on my Tuesday episode, and someone said cold pizza and turkey. So there's some oddball
Yes.
picks out there. Let me know your guys' favorite Thanksgiving meals in the comment section of today's video. But let's go. The Green Bay Packers will go into Detroit, and this game has playoff implications written all over it. Back in week number one, Micah Parsons' debut, the Packers not only won the game against the Lions, they dominated that game. And as of right now, the Packers are in the playoffs. The Lions are looking on the outside. So, if the Packers are able to sweep the Lions' playoff chances really start to dwindle down. So this game means a lot, and the Packers come in winning two straight with a top five defense. The Lions are at home in this one with a top 10 offense and defense. It's going to be an exciting game. The Lions are short favorites at home. Amir, your thoughts on what could be a very special opening day game?
This game is going to be great because before I chose my current game pick for this week, um, my pick was going to be Packers over 23 and a half total points. And I know that sounds like a lot, but I think this could be like a 27-24 game or like a 30-33 game here. And surprisingly, I'm going to lean towards Detroit because you just brought it up. I don't see Green Bay sweeping this Detroit team. And it's crazy even seeing that Detroit's defense is ranked 10th based on points per game
Yes.
because their defense looks terrible. It looks like it might be like in the bottom five of the league. The secondary can't cover. The run defense is good. But also, on top of that, the Packers, their offense tends to be a bit off schedule whenever Josh Jacobs isn't there. And so I think Detroit wins this game. I think this is going to be a really, really good Thanksgiving matchup. This is going to be far better than that week one game.
Yeah, it's interesting to note about Josh Jacobs. He didn't practice on Tuesday. So that really is going to
Yeah.
me that says he's not going to play on a short week here in a very physical NFC North matchup. Plus the Packers, again, like we've mentioned, already got a win in this series. It's very hard to sweep a team, especially a very good team, and on the road to do that is going to be very difficult. Amir, I just see this playing out like how these teams played at the end of last season, where, Jordan Love's dealing with some injuries, and, some people are on the Green Bay side. They're expecting them to get a big time win, and then Detroit just kind of blows them out. Honestly, of course, I'm a Jordan Love guy, but I think Detroit will roll in this one, and that total, it should go over in a very exciting early matchup there on Thanksgiving. That'll be the perfect midday game where you can settle into your seats. But let's move on, man. You know that these two teams have to be on this day for one reason or another. On one side, you got the most famous team in the world, the Dallas Cowboys, and on the other side, you got, well, the fans' pick in Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That is the money wagon for the NFL, so they're always going to be on these big time holiday games. But with that being said, Kansas City has 3.5 point favorites go into Dallas with the top five offense and defense, coming off of a much needed overtime bounce back win against the Indianapolis Colts, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Now for Dallas, they've looked like a completely different team. I know the record says 5-5-1, and the defense is the third worst in the league based on yards per game. However, they made a bunch of trades. They picked up Logan Wilson. They picked up Quinnen Williams. And this run defense looks night and day from what it did before those trades. Amir, your thoughts on this one? Is there any way that Dallas at home, 3.5 point favorites or underdogs, can they pull off an upset against the Chiefs?
I think they honestly can. I'm leaning towards Kansas City because when Kansas City is desperate, when their backs are against the wall, we
Yes.
don't bet against them. And we saw that last week against Indy. And they've struggled on the road. but I think this is a perfect matchup where they go on the road in Dallas, they win. It's going to be extremely, extremely close. So I'm probably going to stay for money lines here because you just brought it up. I mean, the Cowboys up front, they had a bottom three run defense up until 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, post trade for Quentin Williams, they've allowed, I believe it was like 43 rushing yards combined the past 2 weeks. Like that's nuts. And so I think it's not going to be like last week where Kareem ran the ball over Indy. It's going to be a shootout, just throwing the ball. I think Mahomes might throw the ball 45 times. Dak might throw it 45 times because they definitely won't be able to run the football. And so this is going to be a great game. And I think Kansas City goes into Dallas and they win because contending hopes are on the line here.
What we do know about Kansas City in recent years, really since the departure of Tyreek Hill, they don't, blow teams out anymore. Every single game seems to be a close game, and especially on the road against the best offense in football, we're expecting a lot of fireworks in this midday matchup. Amir, is that the best defensive interior line in football? Of course, you have Philadelphia's group with Jalen Carter, who really carries that group, and also you have Mike Hall and Mason Graham. Your thoughts?
So I'm going to lean towards Philly, but Kansas City's run
Yeah.
defense is amazing, man.
No, I'm
Amazing. I
talking
mean,
about
they're
Dallas's with
oh,
Quentin
oh
Williams
Dallas.
and the guy they got from Green Bay. His name's slipping my mind.
I mean, Kenny Clark, and I mean
Yes.
honestly, Dallas up front these past couple of weeks, I'm extremely impressed, and it's because last year that was their biggest weakness, right? Teams ran the football all over them. It was embarrassing. This year, teams ran the football all over them.
Yeah.
These past few weeks, people were kind of bashing Kenny Clark, but people fail to realize that he's quite literally the only dominant D
Yeah.
lineman on that line. Then you add Quentin Williams, and so now I think it's between like Dallas and Philly. I think Dallas is that good.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean more towards Philly. I think
Yes.
the production is a bit better, but I think a large part of that has to do with them also having just like dominant D ends out there too and linebackers. But I think Dallas is not too far behind.
Well, good thing for Dallas if you do have concerns about the opposing teams running the ball. This week, there's not going to be a lot of that because Kansas City's not great at running the ball. Example A, Kareem Hunt had 30 carries last week. I don't expect that to continue on a short week. But let's go, man. Speaking of fireworks, this matchup has been nothing but that, as the over in this matchup has gone over, I think, 9 of the last 10 times these teams have played, at least the
Crazy.
9 out of the last 10 times that Burrow and Lamar have played. For Cincinnati, you come in as 7 point underdogs going into Baltimore, and you now have Joe Burrow back in the lineup. Of course, it hasn't been a pretty season. You've lost 4 straight. You have a bottom 10 offense and the worst defense in football. And for the Ravens, you've won 5 straight. Some of those games with Lamar and a majority of them without Lamar. But Lamar is back in the lineup. We know that he elevates their ceiling, so much so that they've already regained lead of the AFC North in the short few weeks that Lamar has been back. Your thoughts on this AFC North matchup, Amir? No T. Higgins. That's important here to note. But Jamar Chase is back in the lineup.
So, this has gone over, but I think this is a matchup where I'm gonna slightly lean towards the under here.
I agree.
It's gonna be really close, surprisingly, but I think the Bengals cover the +7 spread. I think Baltimore slightly loses, and I could also see Burrow going under his passing yards line. It's like at like 260 or something.
Yeah.
I just think the Ravens defense has been great, and the offense hasn't been really good. I think surprisingly, I think this is a week where since he'll be able to somewhat get stops and create turnovers because they've been elite at creating turnovers this year. I think they're like second in the league in interceptions this year and like forced fumbles and stuff. But the defense is garbage. But the Ravens' offense has been bad. They looked terrible last week against the Jets, whose defense has also been absolutely garbage. And so I think this is going to be just a game where Burrow's going to be a bit rusty. I think they hang around, but I'm going to slightly lean towards Baltimore.
Just I can really just see this game playing out exactly like how Joe Burrow talked about in the presser. And his first thing back, he was like, growing up, I remember watching Thanksgiving games, and I remember watching Matthew Stafford and Megatron just dominate opposing teams, but lose. I can see that happening where Jamar Chase and Burrow have big days and maybe make it close, but the Ravens ultimately, at this point, are better teams. It still amazes me that the Ravens front office and the Bills front office, I know they're run first teams, but they have no interest in adding another wide receiver for these elite quarterbacks. It's shocking to me, but what do I know? Sitting here recording a podcast. Now, last week, this might go to my credibility. Amir and I both went 11 and 3, starting to really heat up and dominate our game picks on a weekly basis. On the year, Amir's at 70%. I am right behind him, one game behind at 69%. Of course, we shoot for 70% every single season. And here we go. Here is the Week 13 slate. Now we have three Thanksgiving games that we just went through. We have a Black Friday game between Chicago and Philly. And Amir, I want your thoughts on that in a moment. New Orleans, Miami, Houston, Indy in a key AFC South divisional matchup. Kirk Cousins takes on the Jets, and Shador gets his first or second career start 2 weeks in a row against the San Francisco 49ers. That defense at home, I think, will make that one very interesting, especially with the injuries to San Fran. But Amir, your thoughts on this 3 p.m. Black Friday game between the Bears and the Eagles?
So this is going to be a interesting matchup, right? Because the Eagles are in a really, really bad spot. Um, One, they lost the DB in the second day. I forgot his name, but having a brain fart. But defensively in that second half last game, they did not look good. Dak tore them apart. The offense looked great first half. Second half, they did not look good. And Philly, the biggest issue I have with Philly, right, is that I'm not overly concerned with them in terms of personnel, in terms of schematically, because they rise to the occasion, but they also play down way too much.
Yes.
And I think Philly wins this game because Chicago hasn't played anybody. But this could be a game where Chicago could surprisingly upset them here because they're catching Philly in a really really difficult
Yeah.
spot. They just got upset. They were just on the road. Yes, they're going back home, but AJ Brown, in the press conference, complaining stuff like that. I think this is a matchup where Chicago could potentially upset, but I'm still going to take Philly here.
Interesting because it is a matchup of the 2 and the 3 seed in the NFC side of the playoffs, which again, a matchup like this, with Chicago being as surprising as they are at the end of the season, this matchup could be the reason why they get a higher seed than Philadelphia. So again, seems like a meaningless Week 13 game between two very good teams, but it could play a huge part in how these teams' playoffs success goes. I struggle to get that out, but stick with me. Here into the mid and to the late slate, we're talking a majority of Sunday games. We have a lot of games that we agree on here, but a lot of games that, if one injury is on the report or not, for example, like Baker Mayfield, we may sway the other way because as of right now, we're taking Arizona in that one. Denver goes to Washington on Sunday night. That would have been a very fun game if Jaden Daniels was healthy. Omarion Hampton returns for the LA Chargers offense. That team should look a lot better as they have dealt with a lot of injuries, a bad offensive line, and they're still in the playoff mix. And then Monday, we have a very exciting cap to this week as the Giants with Jameis Winston go to New England to take on the number one seed in the NFL, period. Amir, I want your thoughts on one matchup in particular. Oh, by the way, Sam Darnold revenge game against the Minnesota Vikings. We'll see if they made the right decision. I want your thoughts on Cam Ward right now because I've started to try and pay a little bit more attention to that Tennessee offense after the firing of Brian Callahan. And since their bye week and the firing of their coach, Cam Ward looks more comfortable week after week, and he's making it work with a lot of young wide receivers like DK, Elikai Manor, etc. I want your thoughts on that matchup, man. Is there any way that you can see, though Tennessee's the worst team in football, can get a big, upset win against their division rival in Jacksonville at home?
I think honestly, if I'm a hopeful Titans fan, if I'm in this front office for Tennessee, I'm focusing more on seeing the growth of Cam Ward for the rest of these weeks because personnel wise, they suck. The
Yes.
defense is bad. And that's supposed to be the strength going into this year. Last year, you saw Will Levis. When you saw the offense clicking on all cylinders, they looked electric. They
Yeah.
torched, an elite Houston defense both games last year. And this year, it was the complete opposite. They can't run the football. Receivers don't get open. You have drops. The O line is bad. But Cam Ward, you brought up a great point. He's making it work. And it kind of reminds me of last year of Drake May
Yeah.
getting thrown in there for New England, where he's still putting up solid numbers. And to kind of list off some of these numbers, Cam Ward was struggling to throw for 150 yards to start the year off. And
Yes.
he's cleared 208 of his last, no, and 6 of his last 8 games.
Okay.
And so, you're kind of seeing these flashes. The arm talent is still elite. Um, Yeah, but it's just difficult, man, because the offense is completely off schedule when they can't run the football. I think firing Callahan was a great move. I'm kind of interested to see who they target this offseason to be, their forefront, their leader, and their coach and play caller because the market is kind of low right now. But I love Cam Ward. I'm still believing in him. He was my favorite guy coming into this draft, even before that ball game where he was absolutely great. I still think he's going to be a great quarterback. I do.
Now he wasn't my favorite prospect coming in, but that's well documented. About Walter Nolan, who Amir got his first pick six last week. Just a few short weeks into his NFL career, he is dominating, and he was my favorite player. Walter Nolan, shout out to him. But speaking about Tennessee and their shortcomings this season, these five teams have similar stories. Downs the track is what I'm going to call it so far, but let me know if you guys have better catchy names for the title of this, I guess, section of the show. These are the top five teams. If the season were to end today, this is how the draft order would go. We would have Tennessee at one, the Giants at two, putting themselves in an interesting spot to trade down or do whatever. The Saints at three, the Jets at four, and Vegas at five. Out of these five teams, Amir, we know a lot of things funky can happen at the end of the year. Let's say Cam Ward gets some wins. Things like that can happen. If you are a betting man, which I know you are, who do you think ends up with the number one pick at the end of the season? Again, we got about 2 months left.
So, I don't want to be cliche here and just say Tennessee, but I wholeheartedly believe I don't think Tennessee wins another game. I mean, they barely might win another
I
one.
mean,
And it's, I mean, just looking at the schedule here. Well, first of all, they got Jacksonville this week. Then they got to go to Cleveland, an elite defense. Cam Moore is going to get tortured that game. Then you got to go to San Fran, so back-to-back roll games. Then you got Kansas City at home, tough matchup. Then you got New Orleans. New Orleans, that's their best bet. But the problem with New Orleans is with Tyler Shuck, they got something going on there. Their
yeah.
defense is going to get absolutely cooked. The Saints have looked a lot better. Then they got to fly all the way to Jacksonville for the final game of the season. So that's going to be really tough, really, really tough. If I'm them, I'm tanking. I'm focusing more on the development of Cam Ward. And it's like all these other teams right here that's mentioned, they all have something going for them. The
Yeah.
Giants, with Jameis, their offense is great. The Saints, Tyler Shuck, like I just mentioned. The Jets, they're garbage. But, I mean, with Tyrod, the pass game has opened up a little bit. And Vegas, I mean, them firing Chip Kelly, at least the offense is going to open up a little bit more. And so I think Tennessee easily gets that first pick.
So as of right now, it looks like Arvell Reese, teammate of Caleb Downs, will probably be making his way to Tennessee to add some life to that defense. Now, as far as shortcomings, that's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end, we have the teams that are succeeding this year and at a very high level. These are the current playoff pictures. Now that it's week 13, we're going to do this every single week, see who goes up, who goes down, and who maintains their spot. In the AFC side of things, this is how the top seven go. We have the Patriots getting a home field advantage in a bye in round one. We have the Broncos at two, the Colts at three, and the Ravens at four. The Ravens would host the LA Chargers. The Colts would host the Jacksonville Jaguars if the season were to end today. Interesting matchup there. And then the Denver Broncos would host the Buffalo Bills, rematch of last year's first round. On the outside, we have teams like Houston, who's getting hot. CJ Stroud should be back this week. Pittsburgh should have Aaron Rodgers back. And of course, Kansas City. It's kind of crazy seeing them on the outside this far into the season, but you can never count them out. Amir, I want your thoughts on anything here in the AFC playoff picture.
Man, if the playoffs were to start today, this is a very underrated, first round. Denver versus Buffalo will be a great matchup.
Yeah.
And I mean, right here, it's just kind of weird. Jacksonville is so weird for me because they were garbage. They went ahead and they smoked the Chargers. And so I'm gonna be completely honest. This might be the first time all year where I have no idea who's gonna miss the playoffs. I seriously don't know. I can see an avenue in which even Buffalo and Kansas City both missed the playoffs.
Baltimore
Every
can
team
miss
has
it. I
been
mean,
up. Yeah.
it's close in the AFC North.
I mean, seriously, and it's like it's going to come down to a point where it's like week 18, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, whoever wins that game is going to miss the playoffs
Yeah.
or make the playoffs. And so, honestly, I have no idea what's going on. I don't want to see New England as a one seed, even though Vrabel was my preseason coach of the year. But this will be really, really interesting. I just hope KC and Buffalo both makes it, or I hope Buffalo wins it all this year.
Yeah. I think honestly, I'm not a Steelers fan. I'm not a Ravens fan. Of course, we're Browns fans. But if it came down to a win and get in, I'd rather see Rodgers have one more shot at making a run than Lamar, even though the Ravens have a higher ceiling. But let's go to the NFC side of things. Our preseason favorite in the NFC, Amir, is reigning supreme. The LA Rams are at the number one spot. They look like the most complete team in football, and if not, if you don't want to go that far, they are the only team that are at this point front runners in a loaded NFC conference. At least in my opinion, Amir, you can add yours in a moment. Following them, we have the Philadelphia Eagles at 2, the Bears at 3. Those two teams play each other this weekend. The Tampa Bay Bucks are sliding down, but they still control their division. They're at number 4. They would host the Seattle Seahawks, a rematch from a few weeks ago, where it was just nothing but scoring after scoring after scoring, this time in Tampa. Chicago would host the Green Bay Packers, and the Eagles would host the San Francisco 49ers. We have a divisional matchup there, and of course, a rematch from a few weeks back. And there's a lot of history in the playoffs between the Eagles and the Niners in recent years. On the outside, we have the Detroit Lions, the Dallas Cowboys, and the Carolina Panthers. All teams have big time matchups this weekend. Your thoughts on the NFC?
If playoffs were to start today, this would be a historically good NFC playoff bracket. I mean, this is nuts. I mean, this is absolutely insane. I think when it's all said and done, Tampa Bay is going to secure that 4 seed because, I mean, the schedule sucks coming up, I'm pretty sure. The division is garbage. But I think Chicago misses the playoffs. I think Green Bay or Detroit gets that 3 seed. The next one sneaks into the wild card. And it's just crazy because even though San Fran is a 7 seed, I can see San Fran literally making it to the NFC Championship and just performing
Yeah.
upsets here. And me, you keep on talking about it all season long. It's like a 25-year streak where they've either missed the playoffs or made the NFC Championship, and they find ways to win games. I mean, they won games with Mac Jones, and this is the best defense they've had since 2019. So I can see an avenue with San Fran. They go ahead and they can go to the NFC Championship. I can see Philly making it out. I can see the Rams making it out. I can see Seattle performing some crazy upsets
Yeah.
and making it out. I can see an avenue in which so many things happen. This is going to be so unpredictable this year. I love it.
For Carolina, I just want to show some love there
Yeah.
because, well, they weren't expected to do much, at least in my eyes. And for them to be in the playoff mix this late into the season and really only be a few games out of the mix, it's very impressive. But that loss to San Fran, who currently hold the 7 seed, that might come back to bite them at the end of the day. No pun intended with them being the Panthers. But it's Thanksgiving week in the NFL, as you know, and today we're going to continue to make you some money. As last week we did very well. I think both of us went 2-1, regardless on the year. I am 13-9 on player props. Amir is 15-7. Game lines, you see them at the bottom of your screen. Overall, we are both 21-13 on the year, so well above 50%. Meaning, if you've continued to tail our plays, you are well into the green, and I think you're very happy. We're going to start here with the game lines, and it is Thanksgiving week. Amir, you were not required to do this. I encouraged you to do this. Regardless, we try to keep all of our picks on Thanksgiving Day. So that is all of my picks to, again, make your Thursday not only great because you're eating a lot of food that is hopefully good, but you're also making some money. And my game line is going to start early on, man. Let's start with a bang. Detroit Lions at home against the Green Bay Packers. It's very hard to beat a team twice in a season, especially when they're a division rival, for one, and for two, when they're a very good team. I think the Lions at home get a huge bounce back win. And with Jordan Love and that team dealing with a lot of injuries, it's a perfect spot for this as a short line to come away with a big time NFC win. And that will make that division even more so interesting. Now, Amir, you're going with a team that has a lot of history in the playoffs with this team that they're facing. But these teams, man, with Jameis Winston on one side, could be another upset, man. Let me know where you're going in this Monday night affair.
So I was going to lean towards a Thanksgiving matchup, but actually I changed my pick like 3 times. I had
Yeah,
KC money line, then I had Broncos -6.5, but I settled here. I'm going Patriots and Giants over 45.5 total.
I love it.
And I think this is a matchup where the Giants had just fired Shane Bowen, the D coordinator. So you're going into a week where the defense was already been trashed the past like 5 weeks. And on top of that, too, you're going into a game where you're going to have a new play caller, new everything. So stuff might be chaotic. And it kind of lists off some of these notes here. I think this is going to be a potential major upset. You've seen the Patriots these past couple weeks sort of have these blank points where They started off really bad. They looked dry. They looked dry against the Jets early on. They looked dry against the Bengals early on. And the Giants almost went in Detroit and won last week. They are in back-to-back road games, but I don't know what it is about Jameis, but his last 10 games as a starter, he's gone over this total 9 out of 10 times. We know he throws the football. We know he airs it out. I think this is going to go over. This might be in like the 50s or 60s, kind of like last week. And
Okay.
the line has gone over the 6 out of the last 7 games for the Giants and 3 out of the last 4 games for the Patriots. And the only under for the Patriots was against the Jets, I believe, which they have a trash offense.
Which
And
again,
so I think this goes over. I see the other lines are like 47.5. I also like the over on those too.
Jameis Winston's best trait is the fact that he brings this unpredictable factor to every team that he plays with. And no matter who he's with, it seems like they always have at least a couple games where they just single-handedly put up, 35 points there in the stints that he is starting. Let's move on to the player props. And again, I'm staying in this early matchup between the Green Bay Packers and the Detroit Lions. And this is a line from a player that might be the fastest player in the league. He might be the most electric player in the league. He is named Sonic for a reason. Over the last 5 weeks, he's had over 170 yards 4 times. The one week
Hmm.
that he went under against the Minnesota Vikings, well, that was a bit of an oddball game as that went down to the wire. But for Jahmyr Gibbs on Thanksgiving, I think they continue to lean on him. I think we've seen in years prior with this duo of Gibbs and Montgomery, the later it gets into the season, the more they put the ball in Jahmyr Gibbs' hands. And over 102 and a half total yards, I think is disrespectful. I mean, last week he had over 240 by himself. I think it only takes one or two times, one or two plays really for this play to or for this line to go over. And let's not forget, week one against the Packers, he had 10 receptions. You give him five in this game with a usual rush load. I think he can get at least 120 easy, especially in a big time matchup where playoff implications are on the line. Amir, you're going with a line that is covered in 9 of the last 11 games, and you're going back to the well with this one.
I was going to say I absolutely love this prop right here. I had no idea it was this low. This would have been my best bet if I would have seen this. But I'm going back to a spot which I went to a few weeks back in a cover. I like to go ahead and just like snipe these weird and
Yeah.
random lines that's on the board. And so I'm going to Hollywood Brown over 1.5 receptions. And so similar to the write up I had before, he's covered in 9 out of 11 games this year and 13 out of 16 games since he's been in a Chiefs uniform. And last week was a bit weird early on. The Chiefs start off a lot slow. The game script was kind of weird to kind of start off, and also too they ran a ball a bunch, which is not going to happen this game. And so, I just think this is a game where I think he's going to go over. Last week he went under. He had like one reception, one target. Really had two targets. One of the targets got called back because of a PI. But I mean, even kind of just say some of these facts right here, right? Last week was Kareem's first time in his career running the ball 30 times. First time in his
I
career
didn't
since
know that.
2017.
Yeah.
First ever time, and it was the first time the Chiefs ran the ball over 40 times since like 2020. So that's not going to happen this game. The Cowboys defense is good. I think they'll shut them down. It's going to be a heavy pass game script. And I kind of said it earlier. Since they got Quentin Williams, they've only allowed 43 rushing yards to running backs these past 2 weeks. So I think it's going to be no running the football. I think Mahomes might throw for like 300 yards, and I think
Yeah.
he's going to throw like the ball like 50 times. So
Yeah. I like Mahomes to have a very big day passing the football and over 300 yards. I think his line is at like 260. I think the over in that game for Mahomes could be a very good spot to look at, but we'll talk about him in a moment. For me, I'm going to go with a line in the late game. So we're skipping that middle game. We're going from the Lions game to the late game to start and end your Thursday with some money. And I'm going to go with another big name running back because ever since Lamar returned to the lineup, he hasn't looked himself. It looks like maybe he came back from injury a bit too early. That,
yeah.
or he's just a bit timid to run the football. And over the last 6 games, he has covered this line. Derrick Henry, over 16 and a half rushing attempts. This is an Amir pick. When I saw this, I'm like, this is an Amir pick.
That's crazy.
I was like, this is a guy that, well, now he's barely covered this. He's went 17, 18. I think he had a game with 20. But against the worst run defense in
Yeah.
football, I'm going to take my chances that they lean on this tank of a man at the later stages of his career as they try and make a playoff push again, to get him a ring before he hangs it up. So I'm going to go with Derrick Henry to have a big game in a lower scoring game that I think most people are not expecting. I think everyone's expecting 30, 40 points from each team. I'm going to go with Derrick Henry. just to get the ball a whole heck of a lot. Amir, you're going to go with a line back in that Chiefs game that's been covered 4 out of the last 5 games, and we just talked about them.
I'm going back to that Chiefs game here, and normally I don't like to take a line like this, but I love the spot. I love the research behind it. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes over 23 and a half completions.
This is that
And
pick.
so and so the Cowboys, they have the absolutely worst pass defense in the league. We keep bringing it up. I think the Chiefs run game is very bad. That's been their weak point the past couple years. The Cowboys are going to shut the run down. And I mean, the Cowboys, they've had 7 non-blowout games this year. I mean, they got blown out like 4 different times, but in the 7 games they haven't got blown out, 6 out of the 7 quarterbacks have covered their pass completions line. And so this is a minus, what, 3.5 spread? I think it stays close. And it's like, even in those blowout games, 3 of those games, it was against like the Cardinals, the Broncos, and like the Bears. And all those blowouts, I mean, they were literally beating the Cowboys, and they were like 1 or 2 completions short. And so Mahomes covered this line in 6 out of the last 8 games and 7 out of 11 games on the year. I keep on bringing it up. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think he throws the ball for like 300 plus yards, and I think he might have like 25 to 30 completions.
Yeah. For as much media coverage as the Chiefs get, I feel like we're not talking about, Mahomes enough. I feel like this is a guy that has went back to his MVP level of play. And if this team had a better record, I think his name would be in the running there with Matthew Stafford. But he's had an incredible season. And like we talked about earlier, the Chiefs like to keep games close, like you mentioned. So I can see this line easily passing, going 30 of 47 for Pat Mahomes on a Thanksgiving Day game against the other best offense in the NFL. But Amir, you want to give us a play that not only is going to hit, but it's going to give us 3 times our money in return. So take us through this wild parlay. It goes through all 3 games, has a lot of different legs to it. Run us through it.
Doesn't this look free right here? I mean, it looks
I like
free.
it. I love it. Hollywood Brown is the scariest part of this, and
Yeah.
I think that should cash.
Yeah, seriously. And so Mahomes for 250 plus yards. Actually, I didn't even really look into his hit rate, but I just know he's only went under maybe like once or twice the whole entire year for this prop. But I don't want to keep on talking on his passing yards, but I think he covers his passing yards. I think it's going to be a shootout. Dak as well. We saw last week the Chiefs pass game. They gave up a lot of big plays against Indy. I think with Pickett, with seeding the lineup, with the Chiefs forcing them to throw the ball, I think this is also going to be another game where Dak throws the ball and he airs it out. He's only gone over 200 yards. Let me see, twice this year, and both games were blowouts. And so Hollywood Brown, I already said his write up. I think he goes over, and the Bengals plus 12 and a half. I think the Bengals keep it close. Burrow's back. They're desperate. Their playoff implications are on the line. I think this is free. Normally, I don't want to go plus 3 legs, but I think this should cash. I think it's a catch. I might just nuke this, and this might be my only pick on
Yeah,
Thanksgiving.
I mean, for the Thursday slate, you always want to have some action in every game. And although they are some alt lines, I mean, I'd rather, I'd rather take the profit and give ourselves a cushion on some of these lines that we love straight up. So, you know how I feel about alt lines, right? If I had a betting channel, it would be called the alt line. Regardless, I love this play. I think there's a shootout. Of course, they're in the midday slate. Like I mentioned, the riskiest line here is a player that has been a long-time NFL receiver to get 2 receptions, which he's covered over 70% of the games there with your data, Amir. But that's it, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hopefully, you guys stay safe no matter where you're going, and hopefully, you don't eat too much. Amir, what are your plans for Thanksgiving? Are you just hanging out with family? Are you? I know right now you're kind of cooped up at a university.
Yeah, I'm staying at school. I'm going to be working a lot this week. That's really it. I'm gonna go to some church friends house for Thanksgiving. I'm gonna sit and watch football the entire day. I can't wait. This might be like the best Thanksgiving slate in a long time, in my opinion. It's gonna be great.
So your mom's not sending you some food?
My mom's actually in Texas working, but when she comes
Okay.
back up, I'm getting a bunch of food. I can't
All
wait.
right. I figured. I know you guys always go all out. But I mean that's it, man. It's just a lot of football, a lot of food. Enjoy yourselves, but again, stay safe, and we'll see you guys next week.